Well, hello. Just going to a new location today. Some sort of a hill. We used to have potentially a satanist place where people used to gather to do all sorts of satanic rituals. That's the legend. I don't think so. Probably there were some teenagers messing around. Anyway, I'm just going there because from that particular spot, it's called Help It, something like this. I'll tell you the exact name when we go there. You can basically see the Dublin. You can see it from above, like a panoramic shot. And my intention today is to do a time lapse. I really love time lapses. I think it's something aerial with them. It's something that it's some sort of a photography, videography mixed together in a perfect harmony, and it takes some skills, some preparation. I hope to get what is called the Holy Grail, which is a transition from sunset, from day to night, basically. But as you can see, the sky is not the best. It's kind of cloudy and miserable. But the thing is that once the sun sets, you can still have the Dublin panorama basically lit up by the artificial lights. I think it will be a great show, and once I'm there, I'll explain more about the process of doing a time lapse. Why not? So we can all learn together today. So that's how it's called, Hellfire Club. We are now taking the trail up to a Hellfire Club. Kind of crazy name. It's some sort of a hut, but made of stone. And apparently this hut was built in 1725 by some Irish landlords. But later on it was misused by teenagers of the 18th century. We got a shortcut through the forest because it's getting dark. It's 3 o'clock and I need to be there at 2:30 so I can get a decent time lapse. Very beautiful. I'm not sure what will happen when I get back. It will be pitch dark. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I would say that there are 3 ways of doing a time lapse. A time lapse is a series of photographs that you are taking in a certain time frame, and essentially you end up with a video. Phew, again, I forgot the camera on. It's crazy. I have to do something about this. I don't know. So number 1 way of doing time lapses, I'll show you right now after we settle over the composition and everything else in between. And probably I'll just set up this camera as well so we can see each other better. If I can only find that adapter. Let's cruise in. By the way, I'm with my new Sony A7 C2. So in order to do it, simplest way is to put the camera into photo mode and then to go into interval shooting. Interval shooting needs to be on. By the way, this is a Sony camera. And the way to do it further is you have to set up the shooting interval, which I set it to 6 seconds. And then I put my camera into aperture priority mode, like so, with auto ISO. Now I have exposed for the highlights. Metering mode is set for the highlights, but I don't think that's a good idea. This time I'll put it on multi, and then you simply settle on your composition. Like for example, I'm at, as you can see, quite tight. I'm at 135 millimeters. Just getting the focus, setting to manual. Everything needs to be set on manual, otherwise it will it may give you all sorts of errors. And basically after that I let the camera do its job. And it's very easy to calculate. If your timeline is 25 frames per second, then you need at least 250 photographs for to make a 10-second video. Now 6-second interval, I realize is definitely way too long, so we'll just set it maybe to 3 seconds. Yeah, that will do, so it will be shorter. And now we progress. Now you have to understand that each photo is taken every 3 seconds, so to take 250 frames you need 750 seconds, which is around 12 minutes. So you have to wait now 12 minutes just to create a 10-second video. You see, it's very tedious. It's quite a lot of work into it, but the longer the interval in between shots, the faster the time lapse will appear. So I usually, depends on the conditions and the time that you have at your disposal, you have to choose. There is no right or wrong idea. You can also use manual mode, it doesn't matter, or for the exposure I just use aperture priority mode because I don't think light will change that much. For example, at the moment, as you can see, look at the sky, the clouds are moving kind of slow, so obviously a longer interval will be better, but it's kind of freezing and I'm recovering from a cold, so I don't want to be here for hours and hours. Again, as you can see, winter and late autumn is not great for this type of photography, but it is what it is. So that is the method number 1, and that is using interval shooting, having the camera set in a photographic mode. Now another way of doing it is to simply set the camera to SNQ mode, like so. Now in SNQ mode, if I can put it back again, yeah, in SNQ mode you have to go into the menu, basically shooting menu. I don't know, okay, SNQ settings, and it will tell you what is the frame rate and what is the recorded frame rate. So it tells you that you are making a video that is 25 frames per second and you want to take a photograph every second. So your shutter speed therefore cannot be longer than 1 second. That's the whole thing. Do what you want with this information. For example, I probably have to set my, it's cold, the ISO, I'll set it to 100, and as you can see I'm prolonging the shutter speed until I'm happy with the level of exposure. And for this shot is here, it looks like something like 1/10, 1/8 of a second, and away we go. Now this time recording starts with the red button and you have a timer. So again, you have to do some sort of a mathematics, but this time we don't have to shoot more than 4 minutes because I'm taking a photo every second. So I just need 250 seconds, which is a little over 4 minutes. Quite simple, isn't it? Now the first method, it's actually very simple and of doing time lapses, and this is actually called time lapse mode. I have never seen this in any other Sony cameras, probably Sony A7R5 or the new models. It was a surprise for me when I bought the Sony A7C II. I watched few videos about it, and bizarrely enough no one managed to explain me what it actually does. So what is the difference between the time-lapse mode and SNQ mode? Well, it's very simple. If you pay attention, the menu look kind of similar, but in SNQ mode you can only the longest interval that you can use is up to 1 second. That means you have to take a photo every second. This is the longest interval that you have, and the shutter speed cannot be longer than 1 second, therefore. Now in time-lapse mode, you can actually take one photo up to every 5 seconds. So this is a huge difference. Unfortunately though, the shutter speed remains locked at maximum 1 second, which is a shame because it's not quite useful. But if you ever wondered what is the difference between time-lapse mode and SNQ mode, this is it. It's the length of the interval. Now, Dublin from Hellfire House, and it looks like this. It's sunset, it's getting dark, we need to go home. To be honest, I was not quite happily impressed with this type of time-lapse simply because the lights of this city, they look very, very tiny. They look like dots. It's a completely different image when you are shooting skyscrapers at golden hour. Anyway, it is what it is. That's what we have here. That's what we have to work with. Now, out of the 3 modes that I have explained, obviously using photo mode is the best because you have the absolute control about aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, and your resolution is huge. You shoot raw, so you can create 8K videos or probably 12K, whatever resolution your camera can do. SNQ mode is very fast. Time-lapse mode is kind of useless unless you need that 5-second interval for some reason. But I would say that SNQ is probably the go-to. Obviously, another difference is that SNQ and time-lapse mode will create MP4 files, so they will create video files for you, while the photo mode will, you have a bunch of photos that you have to compile into a video. There are quite differences, and it's good that this exists. In the future, what I would love to see is SNQ mode or time-lapse mode with an unlimited interval, or anyway something much longer. And definitely I want the shutter speed to be longer than 1 second, maybe up to 20 seconds. I hope that helped, and we'll see you in the next one.